Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pastrami Nation, the meat of pop culture. I'm Nolan Smith. I'm the editor and co-founder of Pastrami Nation. And joining me today is Chris Yates, who has this awesome project on Kickstarter right now, Marcus Walker, KINGSLAYER Protocol. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This has been, I think we were talking beforehand, this is kind of a long time coming because I've known you over email for a few years, and then I was able to finally bring my own project. So it's a wonderful opportunity. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. And yeah, it's really cool because we've been corresponding for years now. We're in the same industry and everything, but to see a project that you created, I had to reach out and be like, hey, can we get you on the podcast? Because it's so cool. So let's just jump right into it. So
Sure.
Marcus Walker, KINGSLAYER Protocol, what inspired you to create this story?
Yeah, so before I became a comic book writer in full, so I still struggle with saying that I'm a comic book writer because it's not done yet. So I'll just, for the sake of the argument, before I became a writer, I used to work in entertainment. I used to work in United Talent Agency, specifically in the media rights TV lit adaptation space, where there I was working with James Tynan, Sean Murphy, Joshua Williamson, Donnie Cates, Frank Miller, not to be name droppy, but just to give you some context. And, Boom, Vault. And then I did that for a few years. And then when I quickly realized I no longer wanted to be an agent or be in the agent sphere, because that's a grind, especially just the day in, day out type of work ethic. But also I was still living in Long Beach, California at the time, which is about 1.5 to 2 hours one way to Beverly Hills and back. So, I thought to myself, this is too long of a drive, so I'll save myself 10 minutes and go over to Disney. And I basically switched jobs, doing essentially the same thing, but instead of being representation, I was an IP scout. So the actual title was the non-traditional IP person of the creative acquisitions team. What does that mean? I was basically the geek book scout, where I would review comic books, video games, board games, kind of all the things that weren't necessarily the trendy or considered high literary. And so I just did that for about 1.5 years. I would go to conventions and fairs or events and just basically represent Disney to see if I could flip potential books and articles or whatever it could be into potential adaptations for our writers, pod deals and things of that nature. And so during that time, I had reviewed about, 600 or 700 pieces of IP. And I told my boss, Elizabeth Newman, and I was like, hey, I kind of am craving something else. Not that anything's bad. I'm just, for me personally, I'm kind of wanting something different that I'm not seeing. And so I told her, she's like, you should write it down, put it in a notebook, or, maybe it'll either stick with you and it'll turn into something, or you'll just forget about it. I'm like, okay, cool. And then, fast forward 3 to 4 months later, Bob Iger saying, hey, we're laying off 7,000 people and we're starting with your department. And I was just like, oh, crap. Like, this has been the dream, to work for arguably the biggest entertainment company in the world. And, people spend their whole lives or careers trying to get to this point. And what do I want to do now? And so I kind of have a joke now because my friends and my wife tease me in a very loving way. But I basically had this moment where I was just like, okay, if I'm going to, let's say, if I were to die at this moment, what would be my biggest regrets in life? And the two things I came up with would be, I want to marry my girlfriend, who is now my wife, and I want to potentially write a comic book one day. And I was like, what would that comic be? And then I thought, oh, I have this idea I was coming up with. And essentially that is the long and short story of, I came up with Marcus Walker KINGSLAYER Protocol, the initial concept, because I had been craving a Joseph Campbell-esque hero's journey, done it in a slightly different point of view that combine the words of like Jason Aaron, that very emotional, hard on your sleeve, and the hard lines of Sean Murphy, but also blended this kind of, I want to call it Toonami anime manga attitude with like the Saturday morning cartoon colors that's centered around two boys that are brothers in a world filled with mechs and kaijus. And that is kind of the pitch in itself. That's how we got here.
That's fantastic. I love the journey. And you mentioned Hero's Journey, you mentioned Toonami, you mentioned so many cool things right there. So it's hard not to get excited for a project that encapsulates that into one thing. So very excited. This is on Kickstarter right now, correct?
Yes, it is on Kickstarter. We started on March 3rd, and we were fortunate enough to be fully funded in one day. And so we are now on to our first stretch goals. So it's been kind of a very exciting and unique time. because I know a lot of people, when they do Kickstarter, they're like, it's either they fund at huge numbers or it's a very long, fight to get those numbers. And we were kind of lucky to do a little bit of everything in one shot. So now I'm out here promoting, me like, hey, get the word out and see how big we can blow this up, because our goal is to do hopefully more if people resonate, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And having spotlighted a number of Kickstarters throughout the years, like throughout the last 10 years, I can tell you, like, if you do not have a massive first week, it gets really hard.
Yes.
So it's really awesome to see that. And of course I backed it. I saw, the progress. It was really cool to see. And it's sky's the limit now. Now you just get to keep on going. And like you said, sharing the word about it. With Kickstarter, what made you want to go to the crowdfunding platform rather than like shop it around to a publisher?
So the very honest answer to that is we actually did have a publisher about 2.5 years ago. So when I decided I wanted to do this comic and I was looking for an artist, I used the app called Instagram that we all have. And I was just looking at, like, what do most writers do? Okay, we look at ArtStation, DeviantArt, what speaks to us. And so I was like, I'm going to just check out Power Rangers because I love that book. I'm just going to see what's saying. And I found this artist named Simone Ragazzoni. He did, I think it's called New Dakin Dawn, I think it is. It's the Ranger Slayer miniseries. And I was like, oh, he crushes mechs and monsters and this kind of vibe. So I'll just look at his Instagram. And so I looked at his Instagram. I was like, oh, this is 100% the guy. So I kind of wrote him an email, sent him the pitch packet, and he's like, I don't speak English, so I'm gonna have my manager like handle the conversation and translate. And so we had a conversation, and he was on board from the get-go. And so we basically did all the things that I knew how to do from my UTA and Disney days, where I put a pitch packet together. We had some sample pages, and we had pitched it around, and we had landed on a publisher, and we thought, okay, great, this will be a thing. And unfortunately, after some years of kind of going back and forth, because it was creator owned, but it just became apparent that it just wasn't no longer the right fit for us. And I don't want to say anything negative, but it was just one of those tough decisions where it's like, are we about to break our publishing deal? And this is like this is the dream, right? As a first time creator, to be so lucky to have a publisher. Yes, I have a lot of backstory behind, my resume, but to just have that opportunity, it's like, am I really about to do this? And I kind of had that moment again of, if this is the book that were to be published, is this the one that I would be proud to say I made before I died? And I know that's a very morbid thing, but it is that is the barometer I'm going at, because if I never thought I'd do more than one, let alone just finishing this. So I was just like, okay, what are we going to do, Simone? And he was like, yeah, let's do it ourselves. And so we're like, okay, let's figure out Kickstarter, because that's how we knew that was a way of doing it. And basically, within the past 3 years, when I was laid off from Disney and I was working in indie publishers, I was working, as a creative freelancer, whether in marketing or PR. I just had this kind of idea of like, okay, this is how I would go about doing it if I had to build a potential readership from basically from the ground up. And I was fortunate enough to be hired by Keith Aram from PCB and Adam Lawson, who did Mad Dog Morgan and C. Oyam, to basically not be my guinea pigs, but to be like, hey, I want to help you guys get your books made. Here's the playbook I would use, and let's just see if it works for you. Maybe we can tailor it. Maybe we could change some things. And so we quickly learned what kind of works, what doesn't, specifically in the sci-fi and horror genres, because PCB was more horror sci-fi. Adam Lawson was more horror specific, and then Sia was strictly sci-fi. So to kind of learn and dip my toes, I basically I got multiple test runs to be like, okay, what could I do for my Kickstarter when me and Simone launch it? And so with that in mind, our Kickstarter, for those who have seen it or who check it out, is very, I don't want to say simple. I'll say it's a very purposeful, or was designed to have intent, because as you said so yourself, backing Kickstarters, I'm sure you've had your fair share of, sometimes creators are either behind or they're late, or heaven forbid, they don't even fulfill at all. They just take the money and run. And I knew early on that if we were going to do this, we had to get in front of as many potential hurdles as we possibly could. So for us, that meant we had very small and respectfully humble type of tiers. And so what I mean by that is, we have digital, we have some smaller 48-page single issue covers, and our tiers are only $20 for variant covers. So for Sean Murphy, Sia Oyam, Rob Gilroy, Kevin Keane, those are only $20, which I feel is rather reasonable for a comic, especially because we struggled with the idea of like, are we going to ask people to pay $5 for a 20-page issue? For us, that was kind of hard because that's the standard nowadays. But we're like, okay, what can we do that's somewhat different? And so we're like, cool. Since we're paying for this ourselves, let's make it a really condensed, tight, meaty story. So fans, if this doesn't work for whatever reason, we can at least say the thing we want to say in this first run that leaves a cliffhanger. But then if we're successful, we have room to go. And so that was kind of the idea of, okay, so we made a tighter story. We're going to hopefully offer a more cohesive narrative that's very, dense and compact. And we're going to hopefully have, we're trying to be respectful to the wallets of backers with our tier campaigns. And the book, by the time this campaign is wrapped up, first week of April, it'll be 100% complete. Because, right now the book is done. It's just Antonio, our colorist, is doing the final touches on the art. And him and Simone want to get it right, let's say. And so, again, we're trying to keep shipping as low as we can, and we're telling backers that we're going to be shipping in August. But the honest truth is that the book will be done when the campaign closes, except for if you back at a higher tier. So if you back at a higher tier, we're going to add your name into the book. So essentially, that's all we're adding to the book, because even then, our stretch goals are just upgrading the premium experience of the book, harder cover stock, maybe some more back matter. So basically, the book is done. So then, even though we're saying August, if we're able to get everything lined up, we'll get this book into your hands before summer. Again, we don't want to, we don't want to say that we will and then fall short, because that's what a lot of people do, unfortunately. So again, we're just trying our best to get in front of all those hurdles as best we could. And I'm talking way too much, but I hope that answers the question.
No, absolutely. And, Kickstarter's it's a crazy thing. I've backed over 100 projects. And in the back of my mind, only one stands out that absolutely did not fulfill. And you remember that. And when you go to comic conventions, like I'm always at comic conventions, you remember that. And you see those creators and you're like, why would I support them now if they couldn't deliver on the $10 comic I bought back then?
Yes.
I appreciate greatly that, like you said, it's done. By the time the project finishes on Kickstarter, like it's done except for adding the names, which is super easy, right?
Yeah.
So that puts a lot of confidence in backers, because sadly there's a few bad apples. Like I said, out of, I think it's about 150 I've backed so far, and only one stands out as being a bad experience. So Kickstarter is a great platform when it's people that you trust. You've been, in the industry, people know who you are. You're a trusted person. So I want to just put out there, like, if you're on the fence, like, hey, should I back this? Who's this Chris Yates? You got nothing to worry about. Like,
that's very kind. Thank you.
You will get what you pledged, and can't wait to see how it turns out. Like you said, with the covers, of course, the Sean Murphy is what I had to back because Sean Murphy.
Of course.
So many, right? Like it's so cool because you can have the completist that you're like, I gotta have one of each, which is fantastic. For me, I just want to read it. And I'm gonna put the one up on the wall, the Sean Murphy, and then I'll read a digital. That's my plan.
Well, and that's the thing with because readers they come in so many different ways in terms of how they like to enjoy the books that they want to. Some want to collect it and not read it. Hey, respect. I get it. Some people want to read everything. They want to collect everything. So again, we try to do our best to meet them wherever they want to be met in that regard. So if you're like, hey, shipping's too hard, but I want to be a part of the campaign, cool, here's a $10 version. Or you're like, I want everything. Okay, here's for $90, you get everything. You get, I think, 8 versions of the book, or if you really want to contribute in a real way, we have commissions, we have original art available. So we really tried to be as thoughtful as we could, because again, times are tough, especially with attention and wallets. So.
But I love that. I love the variety of tiers, because like you said, what if you just want to back it because maybe somebody doesn't know much about you and they're like, this looks interesting, I want to give it a shot. However, they don't want to give it $100 shot maybe. Some Kickstarters do that, right? Like you're like, I'd love to support them, but like it's just asking too much right now. You have it at affordable tiers to where, I'm dad of two, for me, I can easily, back an issue and be happy with it. If I win the lottery, then I will back more. But
Yes.
everybody can be a part of it, and I love that. It's a really well thought out campaign. Let me tell you.
Thank you.
I've reviewed a lot of Kickstarters in my time, and yours is very clean, very clear cut. You know what you're getting, and by looking at the project, you want to get it. Like, why wouldn't you want to be in on it?
It was there was definitely I don't want to, how do I phrase this? For me specifically, because I had worked on previous campaigns, and Trevor, my graphic designer, he had also worked on previous campaigns. So just because it's our first one together designing, we had this kind of bar of like, okay, it has to have a certain level of polish, right? And so the funniest thing about it is when we were designing it, Simone's like, hey, I want to add this like hex design look to it, and Trevor's like, okay, cool. And then Ryan, our logo designer, he had that kind of futuristic look to it, and so we took Ryan's letters, Simone's hex, and we kind of combined it with this, I don't want to say metal attitude, because if you listen to the video, it kind of has this like energetic rock and roll sound to it. So we kind of have this like punk sci-fi vibe to it that doesn't come across too grungy, but it definitely has, we'll call it personality. And so to have that and be very clean cut and very, simple for people, because again, for those who don't know, Simone again doesn't speak English. And also one of the things I learned is we as readers love comics where if you have to reread a page multiple times to understand what's going on, you probably have failed as a writer or as a creative team. Again, you might be able to write some wonderful things, but our belief with us is you are buying a comic book for the art. Let's be honest. You're not buying it for the words. If you would, you'd be buying a book, not a comic book. And so I quickly realized as a first-time creator, I don't need to overscript this thing. I can basically give Simone 2 sentences and he will make it more beautiful than I could have ever written, but also he'll do it in a way that's more elegant and simplistic. And so our mindset was very much to have that throughout everything, because I mean, who hates to read something and be confused, right?
We've all been there. We're going through a comic, we hit like word bubble hell, and you reach the end of the page, you're like, wait, what happened again? Unless you're like Brian Michael Bendis, like, it's a visual medium. Like, let's let the artwork tell the story, and then the text kind of enhances it and takes you along. I've read a lot of comics that have 0 words, and that's the beauty of it, because you can go through it and just get it by panel to panel, the silence in the gutter, and you're like, that's a good story.
Yes.
So I love your approach, because I self-published a comic 20 some years ago, and I fell into the same thing. I wrote it so much, and I was like, why did I do that? Like, it didn't need all that words. It just needs, I need to visually capture somebody, and I love that. That's what your Kickstarter campaign does too. You look at it, and it's visually appealing.
Thank you.
It looks like you've done Kickstarters for this before, and being the first one that's yours, that's a really cool thing to accomplish, because then it gives that confidence that, like, hey, these guys know what they're doing. From everybody on your team, it just exudes confidence. So no, I think it's great. I do want to talk about, you've had some major endorsements, and one, of course, to One Piece. What does it mean to receive that kind of support?
Baffling and humbling. I truthfully still don't know how I did it. I mean, I know how I did it, but the fact that he gave that statement is something I'm so grateful for, because again, for those who don't know, when I was using everything I had learned from Disney and UTA, right? Because I've been in books, I've been in media rights, I've learned how to flip things in terms of adaptation or how to promote things. And so one of the things I figured I could do to make it feel like backers could trust me was hopefully getting that ringing endorsement from someone at a very high level. And I thought to myself, okay, I have this kind of anime, cartoon, like almost YA book. It's not YA, but it's definitely a young person's book, because I didn't want to get like a traditional YA blurb, because when people think of YA, and this is my opinion, so I'm speaking for myself, when you read YA, sometimes it feels like they're talking down to the audience, be like, this is what's happening, and and everyone's like, don't do that to me. Like, talk to me as if I know what's going on. And so I figured, okay, who could I pick out of all the creators that would make the most noise, that feels like they're talking to its audience and not down to it. And I thought of Stephen Maeda, the co-creator, showrunner, and writer of One Piece on Netflix. And I was like, okay, who is he repped by? Who are his people? And I'll be honest, I got very lucky. My former boss, Elizabeth Newman, worked for the same management company as his. And so I just said, hey, Elizabeth, I have a very lovely letter that I wrote Stephen. Could you give it to him and see if he'll review my book? And she's like, sure, I'll give it a shot. I can't promise anything. I'm like, no problem. He reviewed it over the holidays, and little did I know I would get an email from him directly being like, hey, Chris, had a great time. I hope this is what you're looking for. Tell me your thoughts. And then he wrote that blurb, and I was like, you don't know what you just did for me. You just made this so much more, like, first off, reassuring, gratifying that I didn't waste these past 3 years of my life. But also it was just like, I couldn't have written it better. Like, that is amazing. Thank you so much. Because my marketing brain was like, oh, that's very nice. But also at the end of the day, as a fan, I was just like, Stephen, thank you. This is so generous. And, I'm at a loss for words. He's like, hey, go have, start your journey, my friend. I was there, X amount of years. I know how hard it is to get going. So I'm just glad I could be helpful. And that's kind of how it happened.
How cool is that? I mean, you're right. It makes the journey so much more manageable when you get that kind of a glowing endorsement from somebody that's, especially right now, right? One Piece is on everybody's mind right now. Like, to have that kind of endorsement is fantastic. I'll jump off a little side note about endorsements real quick.
Yeah.
So back when we first started off, over 10 years ago, we were just started off, and we had the crazy website called Pastrami Nation, who everybody thought we sold deli meat, and we didn't. We were the meat of pop culture. I started spotlighting a Kickstarter for a guy named Digger. Digger is from Art Asylum. Digger helped create so many things in his life. He's a fantastic guy. And by doing that, I got on his radar. And I remember meeting him at Comic-Con, and he was a fantastic guy. And then he tweeted out, Pastrami Nation. Well, that's the coolest fucking name I've ever heard for a pop culture site. And it blew up.
Nice.
Because Digger, who, like, if you're in like the action figures, sculpture world, like, everybody knows Digger Mesk, like, he's the man. So I totally understand. It means the world, and it means the world that someone took the time to do that.
Especially being a first-time creator when he's so prolific. And I'm like, Elizabeth, how much did you pay him? And she's like, no. Like, he's a very stand-up gentleman, and he decided to do it. And I was just like, what? Like, that's amazing. So yeah,
that's so cool. So and it shows you, like you said, stand-up gentleman, awesome guys. So if you're one of like the 2 people that haven't watched One Piece, go support them. Go watch One Piece.
Yes, 100%. But also, I put myself in a very tight corner, because that means for my next book, whether it's Marcus, the next one, but if I do another title, I have to now think of another type of, creator of that caliber to potentially do it. Because not that I'm like, this is the bar, but it's kind of the bar now. And I'm like, oh crap.
You got to put that marketer hat back on you have, and like really brainstorm, like, who's it? Stephen King? You just don't know. But what a cool bar to have, That brings me right into the next question. With this project already funded, so are you thinking down the line doing more continuation of Marcus Walker? Do you have other ideas that you're thinking of this year?
So basically, when we separated from our former publisher, it was conceived of as a 12-issue series. It was very decompressed, and it was very long in the tooth, not in a bad way, but just, it was just like, okay, if we're paying for this, we need to condense it, make it tighter. Very much Scott Snyder from his Substack. He talks about momentism. I think he calls it, where it's like, you need it to be more compact. You need those snap moments. You need these things where people can talk. You want it to, first off, be a dramatic moment, but you also want it to be a cool art piece. And if you could tie them both together, then you really win. So we were like, okay, how do we do that as best we can moving forward? That's not going to cost us an arm and a leg, because as most of us know, indie comics, usually you lose money. You're lucky if you can even break even. And so we're like, okay, let's do these kind of 3 oversized stories, so we can do, nice chunks and get through the story that we want to tell. So technically it's 6 issues, but we're doing it as 3 oversized. So let's say if Marcus becomes a success and we're able to do more, and a publisher comes knocking and they're like, hey, we want to pick it up, we can actually break up the pagination so that it is actually 6 issues, and we're not going to be giving them the oversized. So we wrote it with that in mind. So if we're lucky in that way, it wouldn't ruin anything, but also that just almost reassures backer, hey, you are getting something unique and premium strictly for you. So to kind of answer the question, yeah, we do have at least 6 issues. The first 6 issues are already written. It just depends if we get there. I think with the response we're getting, we're going to be doing it, but at the same time, we don't want to jinx ourselves. But yeah, that we do have I think the way to call it is we have a roadmap forward, not a blueprint. Things can change along the way, but we do as a team. And then specifically for me, outside of Marcus Walker, I actually have an announcement coming out at San Diego Comic-Con for a new project with my boss Keith Aram at PCB. But that's for another time.
How cool is that? Oh, I'll be at Comic-Con. I'll have to come track you down.
Oh, you will definitely. PCB is usually in the studio section, so come see us, because I can say this because it's not spoiling anything. It will be with a celebrity endorsement / attachment. So the gentleman that we're going to be having will be there, and I'll tell you offline, but it'll be something very exciting. So
that's so cool. And I mean, San Diego Comic-Con it's right around the corner. I mean, it's really scary. We're already in March, but
yeah. yes, it is.
No, that's fantastic. I love hearing that, and I love that you use the phrase roadmap, because like we're not going to have like a step-by-step plan. Like, this is how the year is going to go. It's going to be like these are the points that we hope to hit, and then here's how we can pivot if we need to.
Of course,
it's what we all need to do.
Yeah.
No, that's perfect. So the project ends. What day does it stop funding on?
I believe it's April 2nd. I think it's the last Thursday. No, it's the first Thursday in April. So yeah, we did the full 30 days. So we launched March 3rd. So I think it's April 2nd. Yeah.
Perfect. And the link's going to be in the bio of this video. So make sure you go over there, click the link. It'll take you straight there, and make sure you back it. Chris, thank you so much. This has been fantastic. I'm very excited for this project. I want to read Marcus Walker. I want to see what it's about, like firsthand. I can't wait. I can wait, but I can't wait because I mean, I love comics. That's my thing. I love to devour the art form. It's what one of the things that I grew up with, and one of the things I've shared with my students throughout the years. So, thank you for continuously curating art. Amazing art, and for people to just enjoy of all ages. That's one thing I wanted to touch on. You mentioned the YA, and I agree, because sometimes if you say YA, it's a YA title, people think it's going to be a dumbed down title, and that's not what it means. It means it's accessible to you.
Yes,
right. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because I love YA titles, because they are open for everybody. So everybody, if you see that, please don't think it means like only
No, and one of the things when we were, again, not to go too long, but just to add to that point and put a nice little bow on it, one of the things I thought of while we were creating this is that yes, simpler stories aren't lesser than, right? They're designed to be lesser than, so that hopefully people of all ages or educational levels or things like that, and when we designed it, the art speaks for itself, it flows a certain way. But also, one of the things we thought of when it comes to people, right? We have young people and old people. Everyone's been young once, but they've not been old. So old people have been young, but young people haven't been old. And so that's when we kind of said is like, hey, when we were younger, right, in the 80s and the 90s, we loved movies like Indiana Jones and basically anything Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, or John Carpenter. We looked up to those things because they didn't talk down to us. They just said, hey, here's a story, especially in the 80s when there's like a group of kids get in trouble and a clown kills them, or they go off on an adventure. Like, they felt like they were a part of that world. And so even though Marcus is a young person, we're not talking down to him. And that's actually kind of a story point we have in it. So when you read it, make note of that, and you'll probably see how we designed it. But again, we really wanted it to be like, hey, it doesn't have to be for dummies or anything like that. You can just enjoy a very simple yet complex thing if you can see through the layers of what the creative team is doing. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
It's a great way to say it. You said it perfectly right there. Like, we've all been young once, but we have not all been old once.
Yes.
honestly, it's the first time I've ever heard that. So that's pretty cool. I love that. I think it really echoes perfectly into the audience, right? So everybody go to Kickstarter right now. Marcus Walker Kingslayer Protocol. It is up there. You can find it right there. You can go to Pastrami Nation. We have a feature on it up as well. And of course, the link will be in this video. So click on that, check it out, check out all the tiers, all the cool covers. You heard all the artists that were mentioned. Go check it out. I guarantee you there's going to be something you're going to want to check out. And even if it's just like, hey, I want to check out the digital, check out the digital. There's nothing wrong with that. Chris, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for having me. This is really fun, and hopefully I can do it again soon. We can either do a spoiler, or if you see me in San Diego, I can then hopefully tell you and show you all the good stuff, and then we can figure that all next time.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
Take care.